Hi guys, Ivan here at the Perth Watch channel. Today in this video I want to talk about what Swiss made actually means and why it may not be what you think it is. And this arose from talking to various people that I come across, and there seems to be high levels of uncertainty and confusion about what it actually means, and the perception is usually more than the reality, the truth. So firstly, just to explain that the concept of Swiss made is actually an enforced legal concept in Switzerland. There's a standard that is enforced and is enshrined in law. And the concept of a Swiss made watch, so firstly to cover that, a watch is Swiss made if the technical development was carried out in Switzerland. So that typically means the design and prototyping. The movement is Swiss, and it is cased up and inspected in Switzerland. In addition to that, at least 60% of the manufacturing costs has to be generated in Switzerland. Okay, so that's what is required to be a watch, to have a Swiss-made label on it. Now, I mentioned Swiss movement. So what does it take to be a Swiss movement? Well, similar to a watch, so the technical development has to be carried out in Switzerland itself. It has to be assembled and inspected in Switzerland, and similarly, more than 60% of the manufacturing costs has to be borne in Switzerland. There is also a stipulation on the costs of the constituent parts, so at least 50% of the value of the constituent parts must be of Swiss manufacture. Okay, so that's really what those definitions are within the current Swiss law implemented by the Federation of the Swiss Watch Industry. And I'll put references in the links below in the description. All right, so firstly, why does this matter? Well, I think it may not be what a lot of people think it is. So I'll explain some of this. So manufacturer, firstly, the cost actually includes research and development. So already it ends up being a small part, but just beware that in that manufacturing cost calculation, right, it has to be Switzerland, so that comes into that 60% cost. The component parts are the movement, the dial, the hands, the case, the crown, the pushers, and the crystal on the watch. So, 60% of that has to be generated in Switzerland. That means if you have an expensive bracelet, that can actually be made outside in China or in the East. Okay, so the bracelet cost doesn't come into it. You realize immediately when we talk about these issues that you can start to exploit some loopholes. So manufacturing costs actually includes wages. It's not just parts. It is actually the wages of the people who put the watch together. So realistically, for a Swiss watch worker working in Switzerland, the wage is going to be 10 or 20 times that of a equivalent worker in China, for example. And that's probably being conservative in my estimate of the difference. In real terms, therefore, the Swiss value in a watch can be minute, 10-20% of the watch, perhaps even less than that if you take into the real term costs in man hours put into the watch, if you think about it in that way. So now, what I'm not saying here is that, I'm not saying there's no place for high earning artisans with 30, 40 years of experience hand making a watch. Obviously I think that those people will deserve a higher wage, maybe even above 100 euros an hour, who knows, and I think there is a place for that. But I think at the same time, there will be some workers working on Swiss watches in Switzerland who are just trained up over a couple of years or so and are working in assembly line, and they get their payment, their wages, which factor into the value of the watch. I'm not also saying that every brand will push the limit. Not every brand will be just sitting at the 60% of this manufacturing. Now, I'm sure a lot of the high horology brands will have a much higher proportion of real Swiss manufacture. But at the bottom end of Swiss, at the entry level, $1,000 and below, I'm sure a lot of it you'll be looking at watches that are sitting right at the threshold. Okay, so in the Federation of Swiss Watch Industry website, they do state that Swiss made has a certain level, a certain respect throughout the world. It engenders a degree of confidence, and it reflects quality, technical innovation, and aesthetic prowess. And I think in the vast majority of cases, that is actually true. The Swiss made actually reflects those things. What I have here on my wrist today is my Seamaster Omega, and I think it actually does reflect that. It is actually a beautiful watch in my opinion, and it's my favorite piece. But I don't think anybody should live under the illusion that this is 100% or even 90% Swiss manufactured. There is a significant amount of costs that you are paying that comes from outside of Switzerland. So just, for you to be aware that that 5,000 or 10,000 that you pay, a huge proportion of that may in fact be not Swiss. And in real terms, perhaps even the majority is actually not Swiss. And that's also to differentiate from other made-in countries. And the most recent example that I came across was with regards to this, the Gino Ocean Rover. And initially they put made in USA, but they had to step away from that, because made in USA, you need to have nearly 100% of the entire piece made in America, and they couldn't do that. They admitted they had imported parts, so now it says hand built in America. So guys, that's my little spiel on what it means to be Swiss made and why it may not be what you think it is. Let me know your thoughts. I'm very interested in what you think, what your own experiences are and your understanding. Hopefully this isn't too controversial. I'll put definitive links to references down the bottom so that you can look it up yourself. So guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. I put out new content weekly, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you for sticking with me, and as always, I'll see you next time.